Aloha family, my name is Daelia Tahi, and today we're gonna talk about what being a victim, victimizer, and the savior is, and how that's a part of an ancient time loop and program that each of us have taken part of within this lifetime and many others. So let's get into it. Let's start with defining what a victim, victimizer, and savior is. So the victim is the one that is always pointing the finger and blaming everyone and everything possible that is outside of them for something that has happened or is happening in their reality, right? We're very familiar with that role. It's like, oh my gosh, they just did that to me. They looked at me wrong. How could they? How could they hurt me? Or how could they put me in this situation? They did that to me. Them. I didn't do anything. It's them that is the reason for why I feel like that. We're all very familiar with that role. We've all been in that role at some point in our life, especially in childhood, but many adults stay in that role as well. Next, let's get into the victimizer. The victimizer is more of the role of the bully. It's the one that shoves the kid into the locker and takes their lunch money, just like we see in the movies. And again, this is honestly a role that a lot of us have also played into, right? Especially in Western cultures. When we get to a certain age, when we start to reach our preteen and teenage years, it's kind of seen as cool to be a bully. You know, when you see the popular kids, they're usually bullies, they're usually assholes. And so a lot of us try to embody that to some extent and go through a phase of trying to embody that to try to fit in. So unfortunately, it's something a lot of us do experience, or maybe it's a behavior that we learned from watching our parents and how our parents treat each other and how they treated us growing up, and we just think that that's normal and we end up bullying our younger siblings or our neighbors or whoever, right? So again, the victimizer is also a role that we're all familiar with and we more than likely have all embraced at some point in our life. And finally, the one that is less known and less talked about is the role of the savior. The savior is a role that not as many people experience, unless if you are a very heart-led individual, someone with a really big heart that has always felt things more deeply and maybe resonates with the term empath, highly sensitive person, and has, when you see people suffering, you have such a big heart that you want to do anything to try to save them from that suffering. And it has noble intentions. It's coming from a very heartfelt place, but there's a shadow to it. And it also happens for a lot of people when they start their healing journey and their spiritual journey. And especially for people that resonate with the term starseed or healer and feel that they have an obligation to basically sacrifice themselves to save humanity or save their parents or save whoever, right? And that's the shadow of it. Anything that involves sacrificing your well-being to try to save someone else, that is not helpful, because the reason why all of these three roles are combined into one loop and combined into one programming is because once you really start to embody one of those roles, then you're likely to loop between the three, to oscillate between the three within your lifetime. So for an example, if you are someone who has a big heart, right? And is exactly what I just described for the savior. And you constantly feel like you need to sacrifice your own well-being to try to help other people. What's going to happen is that you're going to start feeling very depleted. You're going to start feeling like you're being taken advantage of, like all the work that you're pouring into trying to help this other person, usually because they're not even asking for the help, but even if they are, because you're coming from this place of sacrificing your own well-being to try to make sure they're good, you're going to be depleted and you're going to start feeling resentful over time. And with that resentment and depletion, it's going to drag you down into victimization, right? And so you go from the savior to the victimizer of just like, why do people take advantage of me? Why do people not try to help themselves and expect me to do it for them? Why is everyone coming to me and trying to leech off of me? Poor me. And it goes right into the victimizer, right? Personally, I'll be honest, like this is something that I've been working through a lot recently, because I thought I had noble intentions, but then I ended up getting sucked into that, right? And it's a polarity drama. And polarity is unnatural, by the way, even though it's very strong on planet Earth. And then usually when you get into the victimizer role, which is what I just described, eventually you start to get angry, right? And with that anger, when it becomes more extreme, there's rage, and then you are snapping at people more, and you're pissed off because you're so out of balance with yourself and with your well-being and with your sovereignty, because you're blaming everyone else, that eventually you're probably going to move into the victimizer mode, where you're lashing out on people quickly, you have a quick temper, you're completely so far gone from that original savior role that you set out to be, that you're causing suffering because you're just so pissed, and you're bullying other people along with yourself. And then eventually, if you're conscious enough, you'll probably realize, oh my God, I've been hurting people, and then move back to the savior, and then the victimizer, and then again the no savior, and then the victim, and then the victimizer, and then you go into this loop. And the entry point can be any of them, right? So the same thing can go for someone that is a victim. You know, they might feel like the world is out to get them, that everyone hates them, that life sucks, and then eventually they realize, oh my goodness, I am responsible for myself and my reality, and I want to help other people have this breakthrough and realize that they're responsible for themselves and their reality. And they start this healing journey, and then again they jump all in, and then eventually start to get resentful, which leads to the victimizer. And it's whatever your entry point is, you're most likely going to oscillate between the three. I've even heard some people say, in terms of different lifetimes, there's a lot of karma. So for example, I've heard some people say that even with Gaza, for example, a lot of those people that are suffering and going through this horrible, horrible stuff right now that no one deserves to go through, some people say that this is karma playing out, because in another lifetime, they were the victimizer, causing suffering to the people that are in Israel that are now playing the role of the victimizer, as they are playing the role of the victim. So it's like it flipped, and it plays out across lifetimes as well. But the key to exiting this drama is first to develop awareness of everything that I'm talking about, right? When you're aware, you can make a conscious choice, and everything is about awareness, right? And then once you're aware, the key is to become aware of not only this drama, but of the state of being in which you're approaching things from. So are you approaching life from a place of lack, of scarcity, of feeling like you need someone else to come save you, or feeling like you need to try to help someone else? Or are you approaching life from a state of empowerment, from a state of deep knowing, trust, and wisdom, that even though sometimes the outer world can look very chaotic and in disarray, that all is well. When you tap into that state of being, all is well. You are whole, you are complete, you are sovereign, you are free. And when you step into the role of the savior, not for anyone else, but for yourself, that is the key. That's the only time that being in the role of a savior is Christic. When I use the word Christic, I'm not talking about Christianity or Jesus Christ or any of that. I'm talking about the Christ, the Karayasata Ha'ala, which are part of the first sound tones of creation. Everything in our reality is manifest from light and sound. And so the Christ is referring to the divine blueprint that God's source created in wanting to experience itself more. And so when you are embodying the role of the savior for yourself and not for anyone else, knowing that you're the only one that can save you, no one else can save you, and that it's your responsibility to save yourself, that is empowering. That is divine. And knowing that it's not your job to save anyone else, and that you're whole and you're complete and you are a vessel for God. And knowing that if you want to help others, you can plant seeds for them if you feel called to, and if it feels in alignment, right? Through you being you, not from trying to force anything, but simply from your being. And then from your being in this empowered place, people, it creates this magnetism to you, and people want to hear more of what you have to say, because you know that you are whole, you are complete, you are free within yourself. And that is so magnetizing. And you are able to be so anchored in yourself that it's harder to get sucked into the savior, the victim, or the victimizer roles, right? And of course, you know, there might be times where you find yourself getting stuck or getting pulled into them, but then you're able to snap out of it more and be like, I ain't getting into this today, right? And you have control of your personal hologram because you're taking your power back. And that's the key. That's the key in all of this. So my question for you is, which role do you tend to gravitate towards more? And does hearing this information help shine awareness on something that you weren't aware of before? I would love to hear your responses down in the comments. And I also want to share that I am a spiritual life coach. I am taking on new clients right now. Okay, not taking on, but inviting in. I am signing on new clients right now. And so if you are someone especially that tends to gravitate more towards a savior, and you want to learn how to operate from a more empowered state of wholeness and clarity and love, and get to really know yourself in ways that you've never known yourself before, and you want to connect with the divinity within you, as divinity is our innate ability to overcome perceived limitations, right? And if you feel like you need help unlocking that and unlocking the magic within you, I would love to hop on a free discovery call for 1 hour. And you can check out my website or comment down below, and I will reach out to you. And I can't wait to hear from you. But I hope that this message landed well for you. And I'm sending many blessings, sending so much love and light and protection your way. Ashe.